Good morning and welcome to another short devotional for Black Rock Baptist Church and also Morristown Baptist Church. This morning we're focusing on 1 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 7, and I want to ask the question, what do you have that God hasn't given you? We've talked about how trusting in God's goodness helps us to face life struggles. We talked about that on Monday. But what happens when you start thinking that you earned the good things that you have in your life, forgetting the goodness comes from God? In Luke chapter 12, Jesus tells a story about a rich man who was very successful, but he didn't give God any credit for his prosperity. And so God tells the rich man, he says, "You fool. You will die this very night. Then you will get everything," or who will get everything you worked for? Jesus finishes the story by saying, yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. That's a sobering thought. Prideful ingratitude is the sin that got Satan kicked out of heaven. It's the source of all sin, really. When you stop and think of, when you stop being grateful to God, you get into trouble. Romans chapter 1 verse 21 says, yes, they knew God, but they wouldn't worship him as God or even give him thanks. And they began to think up foolish ideas of what God was like. As a result, their minds became dark and confused. The problem with some self-made people is they end up worshiping themselves. They end up thinking, hey, wait a minute, I built this business with my bare hands. But sir, who gave you those hands? They say, I thought up this business plan totally by myself. But sir, who gave you that mind? They claim, I worked for what I have today. I worked by the sweat of my brow. But sir, who gave you the ability to work so hard? The Bible says it this way, what do you have that God hasn't given you? And if all you have is from God, why act as though you're so great, as though you've accomplished something on your own? 1 Corinthians 4:7. Everything you have in life, the ability to see, the ability to hear, the ability to eat, your freedom, your thoughts, you owe it all to God. You would not take your next breath if it weren't for the goodness of God. Ingratitude is one of the roots of atheism. When you're ungrateful, you start dismissing or even denying what God has done. And that's just a short step from denying that God even exists. Yet the truth is, you can see the presence of God everywhere you look. Romans chapter 1 verse 20, for ever since the world was created, people have seen the earth and the sky. Through everything God made, they can clearly see his invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature. So they have no excuse for not knowing God. If you start to doubt God's goodness, just take a step outside your door and look around. You can see God's goodness everywhere, all through his creation. God bless. Have a wonderful day. Join with us again on Friday as we continue in our short devotionals. And until we meet again, let's continue to exchange prayers daily. God bless.